I call this meeting of the Seaside Planning Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Miss Debbie Kenyon, would you please take roll?
Chair Pratt,
Present.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Present.
Commissioner Rose, Commissioner Montero,
Here.
Commissioner Cruze,
Here.
Approval of minutes. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions to the draft minutes for February 3rd, 2026? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted as written. Welcome, everyone. This is the time and place duly advertised for the Seaside Planning Commission to hold its monthly meeting. Agenda items can be initiated by the general public, any legal property owner, Seaside City Council, city staff, and the Seaside Planning Commission. Does anyone present feel the commission lacks the authority to hear any item on the agenda? Hearing none. Conflict of interest declaration. It is a standard procedure for the members of the commission to visit the sites to be dealt with at these meetings. Do any of the commissioners wish to declare an ex parte contact or declare an explanation of any conflict of interest? Hearing none. Public hearing. The following public hearing requirements apply to the items on our agenda. The applicable criteria for the hearing items are listed in the staff report prepared for this hearing. Testimony and evidence shall be directed towards the applicable criteria listed in the staff reports or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which you believe applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. The applicant will testify first, followed by any others in favor of the request, then any in opposition will testify, and then the applicant will be given time for rebuttal. For testimony, we will hear from in-person attendees, followed by electronic attendees. When the time comes to hear from the members of the public attending electronically, there will be a feature in the attendee view that allows you to electronically, quote, raise your hands by clicking on the control panel at the bottom of your screen. Phone attendees can raise their hand by pressing *9. You will then be placed into a queue, and when your time comes to speak, you will be unmuted and can address the commission. Our moderator of comments, Debbie Kenyon, will monitor this area and let us know when citizens that virtually raise their hands are ready to make comment via Zoom or by phone. Background noise must be kept to a minimum while testifying, or your testimony will be ended early. Prior to testifying, please state your full name and your address for the record. Public hearing items. We have public hearing item 769-24-000047-PLNG continuance. I'll now call on the planning director to provide staff report findings concerning the reason for the continuance from February 3rd meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight we're back with the Captain Kidd Amusement Park. This is a retroactive modification of their conditional use permit to operate the park. They were here previously at our last meeting on February 3rd. At that time, a public hearing was held. There was no testimony in opposition. The commission left the record open for additional public comment, and staff did not receive any additional comments. The question the commission had was regarding the dwelling unit that's on the property, the double wide that's been installed. That was installed under the appropriate permits through the City of Seaside Building Department, and I've included the planning approval from the prior planning director on how that installation was approved through our ordinances. I'll direct your attention to item number 5 in that letter, which states this permit will be renewed by the planning director each calendar year from the date of issuance, provided the Family Fun Park remains in operation and the housing for the caretaker remains in use pursuant to the aforementioned provisions of the letter. The letter states specific conditions under which that dwelling unit can maintain its status. and also gives the opportunity to be removed by the city if it's determined to be out of compliance. Nothing I've seen through the applicant's current operation shows that to be out of compliance. Everything appears to be in compliance with what the standards were in that approval. What the letter does not specify is how the renewal process should operate. And the assumption is that it would be renewed continuously unless it's found to be out of compliance, and at which point that renewal would stop. This is something certainly, if the park was to sell to the new owner, that the new owners would need to be made aware of the specific provisions in this approval for the Watchman's quarters. Along with the staff report, the findings and justifications and conclusions, staff's provided 2 conditions of approval and a recommendation to approve this application subject to those conditions. Condition 1 is the standard condition for minor modifications. It can be made without a modification to the conditional use permit. And condition 2 is a revised parking plan that shows off-street loading, solid waste collection and storage, and bicycle parking, along with the parking spaces that have been shown in the applicant's current site plan. I will turn this over to the commission and try to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah. Any questions from the commission? For Jeff specifically, or do you want to go on to the? Okay. Okay. So at this time, we'll invite the applicants to come back up and have a seat if they would like to add any additional comments to their project. Okay. Okay. Since there was no public comment submitted and no new findings outside of the topic of permanent or temporary housing, we will proceed with anything additional from the commission.
So, thank you, Roger. Has it been decided as to when the renewal is to take place annually for this permit?
It has not, and that's because of the ambiguity of the renewal process. Instead of the specific language is this permit will be renewed by the planning director each year. It doesn't specify that a new application will need to be submitted for review and renewal.
So the date is TBD.
Yeah.
Okay. And is the you said it's a double wide?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Is it occupied now?
Can you guys, we got to get you on.
please.
It's not recording audio unless you're speaking into the microphones.
I'm not in this alone, I can tell you that right now.
Yes.
The building is occupied. And is that a 365 day per year position, or is it seasonal?
It's occupied every day, every year.
365. Okay. I was just wondering. Okay.
It's also needs to be, in our opinion, even when we're closed.
I'm sorry?
It needs to be occupied, even when we're closed.
Yeah.
There have been some things where we've had a couple people come up and on our porch trying to get in our house, and it's just important to have somebody there watching the park.
Security as
It's
well.
security
as a
mainly.
watchman.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only thing I had.
I just have a question for the planning director. I guess I could have asked this earlier. Is this the best way to handle this going forward, or could we improve this permit with more specificity and process to have it be more ingrained? I'm not thinking about us and our knowledge right now or the current occupants, but any future purchaser, and have it enshrined more in.
I certainly think that this is deserving of a future discussion for an ordinance amendment. This is a very unique circumstance where it certainly makes overwhelming sense to have 24-hour watchmen on this property because of its location, its remoteness from the main part of town. Just where it's at is unique, and there is really no carve out that I can think of except for potentially even a variance process wouldn't work. If they were to install a building and then put an apartment in a building, we could get there through a conditional use for that. That would make some permanency to it because it would be allowed in this zone. But just a standalone watchman's quarters, I don't see an easy path through our current ordinance except for what has been done here. But I do think it would deserve some ordinance cleanup for sure in the future.
Okay, and so even under these conditions, it wouldn't merit changing some of the wording. I mean, the table's kind of open right now as far as the conditional use permit, and we're already making up for past vagueness and trying to make sure we're cleaning things up. Should we be cleaning this up at the same time? Because it does specifically say temporary watchman's quarters in conjunction, and how do we clean this up so that we make it clear that the use that they are using it under is an allowed use, as long as they're complying with these things and they whatever that reapply is, what does that mean? Do they have to send you an email every year saying, hey, we need our reapproval? Or is it something that the planning department has to send to them every year and say, hey,
The planning department has no mechanism for tracking that and sending that out.
Which is why, how do we clean this up?
I think the way this is written, although vague, works because it does give us teeth to revoke that occupancy if it's not used as approved by this letter of approval and the conditions that are set forth in it. And it's pretty clear on who can use the watchman's quarters. It's, temporary housing for Bruce Rath, the owners of the family fun park, or his designee, meaning it could be an employee or a watchman that they hire to utilize that, but not general rental housing. Now, if the park changes hands, then it becomes a situation with how do we deal with that? And essentially the new owner is going to have to make application for some way to keep that dwelling unit in its intent for what it's used for. Without digging further into our code, I can't make any projection of what that might look like. Our codes are kind of vague in this world. We have a use that's in a remote location that certainly makes sense to have a watchman's quarters on there, but also doesn't make sense to have multiple houses or employee housing or something else going on out there. So I think where we're at right now with it, I don't see a path to make this more clear than how it is right here. But I'm open to suggestions if the commission can think of a path or another option.
Can I add anything?
Go ahead, Tammy.
I'm just thinking if we were to sell, which that is the plan, if it's in Bruce's name, how is that going to transfer right away? And then the thing that I noticed on that letter, honestly, was that it said the planning director will contact you or I don't remember how it said, to renew every year. I don't want to sound like we're lazy, but it's just sometimes those things, if you don't get a piece of paper in the mail or something, you're going to forget. And yearly is kind of, I get where you're coming from because you don't want somebody just coming in there and having parties and moving every family in there. But for us, for sure, putting it on the market to have something that is a little more solid, I feel, for a potential buyer would be nice, especially his name got to be off of it. I mean, it can't, because if it says Bruce Rath and, obviously that would be over with. So I don't know how we would talk to a buyer and say, okay, well, this is for you, but you guys are going to have to go. And they might be going, well, forget it. We don't want to have to deal with that can of worms.
Well, wouldn't that be part of the disclosure of your sale?
Right.
This
But
document?
what would they do, though, if the document states that Bruce Rath or any of his designees can live there and they take over and he's gone? At that point.
Typically land use approval. So the conditional use to operate the amusement park runs with the land. It runs with whoever you sell it to.
Okay.
My concern is this is a temporary permit under a temporary permit ordinance that is within our land use codes, but it's not a specific use, permanent use of the property. So quite frankly, when that happens, I'll probably need to consult with our legal counsel to see which direction to take this. And it could come back that this approval, there's not a clean path to approve this use.
Does it define in there what a temporary house or home building is?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay,
For
so
a term, for that matter.
I think that putting a definition in there of what a temporary housing or temporary living facility or what I'm missing the word there, defining what that temporary building must conform to.
Well, what are we talking about as far as temporary? That's what we need to define. Are we talking about the structure itself is temporary, or the term of housing is temporary? I think that's another important, because this doesn't split that, and it's important in this case, because under your understanding, and what you were discussing last month was, well, it's not a permanent structure, and therefore it qualifies as temporary housing. When the way that housing looks at it is, it's not meant to be 24/7, 365. That's temporary housing. It's something that potentially is a shift housing, or, a week's worth of housing, and then it's turned over to somebody else, and, that kind of thing. And I think we really need to refine what we're talking about,
Well, what if,
temporary is concerned.
as right now it's a temporary housing station for the current business of the property. If somebody came in and wanted to just erase Captain Kidd altogether, and that house is there, we can make it a condition that should there be a change of use on that property, that house has to go.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So a change of use from the amusement park to a
From an
different use.
from anything from the amusement park,
Okay.
that's when that house has to be 86th, for lack of better terms.
And I would also, to the point of the owner's name being named as the person that gets to designate, I think we make it the owner of the property and the business gets to designate, and take out the fact that it's a specific person, because we're building it just for this person, but that owner needs to reapply, and it could be owner occupied or their designee, not Bruce Rath occupied and his designee.
Okay.
Because the way that it's written, even after he sells it, he gets to decide who lives there.
Right.
So
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody would really like that.
So section 5.050 is what gives us temporary permits, and it's very vague. It says temporary permits shall be valid for a period of not more than 1 year after issuance. They can only be renewed with planning director approval. And in here is listed temporary housing for a caretaker or security guard. That's where it comes from. And it says the planning commission or planning director may attach conditions deemed necessary in regard to the proposed use to carry out the intent of the ordinance. So I think that gives you teeth to modify those conditions. We can do it through this conditional use if you'd like. Just give me some language on what you want to put in there.
I think that we're all kind of on the same page with this, and that we want to make this work and not put us in a position where we're immediately creating a condition that we can't keep up with. And so if the temporary use permit was issued to the owner of the property and business, and they were the occupier and the designee of who could live there, and all of the other conditions, all of the other language, for the most part, except for the vagueness of if anyone other than the owner will be staying in the watchman's quarters, because right now you're staying there, and I would assume you haven't notified him to ask permission to be able to stay there.
No,
so I think
Kevin
that-
Couples said he could.
Yeah. So,
That's
I think
hearsay.
I think that we need to be careful about that language
Okay.
because of housing laws.
Sure.
Because now we're getting into housing territory, and
And do you see this as an annual renewal, or can it just be done for as long as they own it?
Based on what Jeff just read, I think it
temporary?
has to stay
Okay.
annual
It has to.
Okay.
until we
Has
change
to.
our
Okay,
manner and means of permitting this.
okay.
And it's tied to the business license that's annually renewed, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
We
I
don't,
think that's a
But it
great
could
time
be.
I think that's a great opportunity to tie
we
them
don't have a
together.
business license with the city of Seaside. We are not in the city.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
Oh, that's right. You are in county.
We are going to encourage, and we've thought about annexing in. So
are-
there is that
maybe,
in our minds right now. So
that, thank you for that
Seems like
clarification, because I was a little confused when you said you don't get annual notices. I'm like, they're a business, but
that
that's right, you're not.
everything's
technically
messed
in
up.
the-
Voting and everything, we don't get to have any kind of seat at all.
Got it.
Anything. So yeah.
So in the letter under number 3, it says, this permit is temporary and as such, it can be revoked at any time by the planning director if the basis for the authorization becomes invalid. This would include, but would not be limited to, any of the following items. The manufactured home is being used for lodging by anyone other than the owner or his designee for caretaker or watchman purposes. If anyone other than the owner will be staying at the watchman's quarters, a written request must be submitted to the planning department, and the planning director approves the occupancy based on demonstrated need associated with the security of the property. So,
Jeff, may I correct something? I have to ask Bruce. Is where the mobile home sits in the city?
It's in the city limits.
Okay, where the mobile home sits is in the city. That's the only part. Our property is really strange. I just remembered that. It's in
is
the
cut
city,
up, yeah.
right? And the rest of the park is in the county. And we're in the growth management. So, just so you guys know that, I don't know if that makes a difference, but where that sits, it's in the city with city water and
Is that a
sewer.
separate tax lot?
Yeah,
separate platted lots.
there's 3 tax lots out there. One's 10 feet, one's 90 feet, and the other one's 300 feet on the highway.
So where the mobile is in the city.
Yeah.
So does the business is being operated out of the house?
The business is
Where's the headquarters address?
At the ticket booth. It's 2735
735 South Roosevelt Drive.
And that is not on the city lot.
address. I can't.
2665, I believe, is the city lot. It's
Yeah, I tried.
it's a humdinger.
We're trying to make it as complicatedly easy as possible.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing would be to annex in and just,
Well,
You know,
and
I don't know.
I think Jeff's got a good handle on it. I think if he comes up with something reasonable that everybody can agree to, the whole ideal of the trailer was it's C3 property. And until a 24-hour-a-day business moves in there, you got security problems. You know, the tavern's been broke into, they steal gas and just,
Yeah, we've
there are
had-
vagrants running around here
just last week.
that I guess we
Coming
can't
up
do
and down our
nothing about.
field, they wander in and go through our garbage.
But
It's
we
not all
got
the
it
time, but it's an
cambered up
issue.
pretty
So,
good.
Commissioner Klezak, just to kind of bring this back around, are you looking to change this so that it's not specifically Bruce Rath that authorizes who
Yes.
gets to stay in that house?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I can write a condition of approval on the park that changes and alters this permit so that it's the owner instead of his specific name, and they get to designate who stays in the house.
Business owner,
Yeah.
not property owner, business owner. Okay.
Right, and then we just have to be careful because they are separate lots. They could be sold separately. So at that point, that has to go.
But that's the change of use part that Commissioner Montero was
Okay.
mentioning, that also needs to be, if
That's the
the
condition.
business as a whole changes, then this whole thing is
Has to
for
go.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if all 3 parcels were sold separately, of which I don't see, but if they were, then
Okay, so we
Gotta come
could
down.
we could write a condition that says a change of use of the property will terminate this temporary permit, which at which
sure.
point the mobile home has to go, and remove any reference to a specific person and just make it the owner,
Business owner.
the business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And put that person in there. Okay, if the commission's good with it, I'll write it before Chair Kraft signs it. He can review it and ensure that we're meeting the intent of that. What I wrote meets the intent of what you guys want to do.
Okay.
Can I ask, if it's going to be annually, and you said you couldn't do any kind of reminder, what do you think the best way?
Well, right now the way I read this is that it's just an automatic renewal unless you're found to be out of compliance.
So we don't have to
Yeah.
do any application paperwork, or
Right.
no one's going to have to. It just,
Who's inspecting the property to make sure it's in compliance annually?
We're not. It would be based on complaints, or if something comes up where we see that the owner's not living there, or they're just using it as general rental housing. But that's a tough one to regulate because, again, you're getting into housing laws now.
So, yeah, and I would say that, I mean, the onus does lay on the planning director. From the way that I read the the number 5 is this permit will be renewed by the planning director each calendar year from the date of issuance, provided the family fun park remains in operation and the housing for the caretaker remains in use pursuant to the provisions. So
I don't think that keeps it necessarily from being an ongoing thing.
No, it's still required for it to be an ongoing thing, but it's the planning director that has to do the renewal, take a drive-by, make a
Which
phone
is-
call.
Or designated
Which
compliance
is not
officer.
possible because the day that I walk out that door, that planning director's not going to have a clue that this
Right,
is
which
the
is
thing,
part
which
of
is
what-
the situation I'm in right now because I had no idea this was a thing until I spoke to the Raths about it.
Which is part of why I'm
But
trying
you're
to
not
be like,
walking out
okay,
that door
we're
either.
setting this up as a process, not for the people in the room, but
You're right.
to make sure that we're tracking these processes.
You said the house is located, the property it's located on is C3 zoning in the city, right?
Yeah, it's all C3 property.
Can the business address be that property address so it gets a business license, therefore triggers the annual renewal, and then it's operating the business that's just outside of the city limits, and the address doesn't change the same for anybody, but the business doing your business out or on that property, that would kind of clear it up. Is that
No,
doable?
'cause it's still a dwelling unit.
so if it was annexed in, would that be this would be a non-issue then?
No, it'd still be an issue. It's the
Okay,
zoning
for
of the
but
property
for the
that's
business
issue
license,
here.
you'd have to
Got
get a
it.
business license then and all that.
That just would take care of it. There would be a trigger for the renewal.
Yeah.
That's just this helping with the processes.
Right.
I would think that you would address that when somebody wants to do a different type of business there without a conditional use permit, or a C3 project,
Sure.
or if they want to do something else or something else. I would think it would come to Jeff and he would say, well, we're going to the planning commission. We need to, you got to have a plan, you got to have this, you got to have that, and, and then you would hear of business.
Yeah.
But the business.
Amazon comes in, buys us out. What could happen?
Ordinance is pretty clear on what goes to the planning commission and what doesn't, and the things that are approved at a administrative level are very narrow in scope compared to the totality of the ordinance. So this is just a unique situation that was approved to meet the needs of this specific location and property and type of business that's here. That we really don't have an easy zoning carve out. It's not a perfect fit.
Yeah.
What would be a perfect fit would be to build a office building and attach apartment to it, which would be a conditional use and approved through the planning commission. And they've done similar type projects around town before where they've approved those types of things. This is just unique because it's not an office building. It's not part of the operation. It's a standalone single family manufactured dwelling.
Got it.
It's very unique. I watched the kids on the helicopter ride right out my kitchen window and the roller coaster.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
So we're going to go with the Planning director will rewrite the conditional use. Conditions.
Yeah, and I'll incorporate those comments in.
Okay.
Okay, so I need to entertain a motion from the commission.
If I had the verbiage in front of me, I would move to vote.
If I had the. There we go. I move to approve conditional use application, planning application 76925000047 PLNG with the conditions listed by the planning director and added by the planning commission today.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Jeff, do you have what you need? Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It carries. And correction for the record, I don't know why I have it as 769-24-000047-PLNG on my sheet. I copied it from somewhere.
I have 2-4 on mine.
Yep. And
5 on the top
she
of
has
mine.
2 foot.
I have on mine.
Well,
The next project had 2-4.
so it is 2-5.
Yeah,
Got it.
I believe
I'll
so.
say, so just under that for a correction, it is 769-25. My apologies. Copy and paste. Okay.
Oh, no, hang on. So.
Did I have it wrong
So
on
the
mine?
agenda has it as 2-4, but the actual item in the packet has it as 2-5.
2-5.
2-5, yeah.
Okay.
It should be 2-5 for this one.
Okay,
And
great.
I believe 2-4 for the next one.
Okay.
We just-
Technicality, but it is approved by the commission.
Thank you all very
It's
much.
on record.
Jeff, thank you. Debbie, you know, it's been a long road, and this is a huge relief. My birthday Friday, hallelujah.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time and your work in this.
And thank you for all your
commission.
years on this at the amusement park.
Thank you, and thank you for what you guys are doing. I know it's a thankless job.
Good luck.
Good luck.
You'll get a notice in the mail.
Thank you. All right, on to ordinance administration.
Wait,
What did I miss?
We got one more.
you're right.
Yeah, it's ordinance administration.
That's ordinance administration.
769-24. Yeah. So on to ordinance administration, which is 769-24-000066-PLNG Restoration House. Mr. Director?
Yeah, so the Restoration House, this was a project approved in 2024 by the Planning Commission. There was a lot of moving parts for this, including street vacations and design and potential design changes. They are, from what I understand, getting close to submit for permits. But we are backing up against, I believe, an April deadline for the conditional use approval expiration. So the applicant's here today asking for another 6-month conditional approval, 6-month extension to the conditional approval. And I'll let him explain what's going on. But from what I understand, we're getting really close to making this happen. So.
All right.
Kind of hoping you to explain it.
All right, for the record, please state your name and address.
Christian Zupancic, 615 Broadway Street, Suite 216, Seaside, Oregon, 97138.
Thank you.
Here on behalf of Restoration House. And this is an extension for the conditional use. I know that we've talked about this a lot over the past year and a half or so. The reason we're here, short summary really, is it's more out of precaution, maybe not necessarily necessity. This is going to be an odd, or I should say just a different permitting process. These micro studios that we talked about last time, that's a go. That's the good news. The funding is in place, so we've got everything that we need. The weird thing about this is that the construction of these units is going to be off-site, maybe like a manufactured home, for example, and then when they're all ready, they're going to get dropped in. But they also involve a separate state permitting process, so things are underway, but they're not necessarily underway on-site and with the city's with the city's building department. So they will be. We're definitely going to be submitting all this stuff in conjunction, but I think it's pretty brand new. If I'm correct, Jeff, that this is kind of unusual for our own building department. So for now, I don't have Stuart Emmons here, but we're either applying for or either applied for the demo permit for that back house that's sitting in the estuary. And so that will be the first item, is to take that thing down. And we have arrangements for the person who's living in that house to move inside to the main house and shift some things around in the office. So this is definitely Tetris, the way that we're having to do this. But we do have a plan to move that resident in-house, demo that particular house that's in the estuary. Once we do that, that should count as substantial construction, and that's really why we're here, is that we have to start substantial construction before the permit expires. And the question is, what's substantial construction? Can it occur off-site in a factory? Can it be through a different permitting process through the state? We don't know. So in an abundance of caution, asking for an extension so we can just keep things moving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And my understanding, Jeff, from conversation was that the demo would trigger the substantial construction. So
That would be my interpretation, yes.
okay. All right. Any discussions from the commission?
Yeah, Christian, when was the, well, and you would know this too, Jeff, when did the city council approve the street vacation?
That was last year, I think, about halfway through the year, if I'm right.
I was wondering. Summertime.
Yeah, I think in summertime. It took quite a few meetings, I think, because that's how right away vacations go. But and I think we came back for an extension right after that approval to let you know that it had happened. So I believe the last time, I think it was almost 6 months ago, probably, that had happened, because I remember coming here and saying, we just got the right-of-way vacation, so can we get an extension to keep going?
And what is the first thing that has to be done? What is the order of importance and sets this all in motion, other than the mods being built off site?
The first thing of order is probably to demolish that back house. Mm-hmm. We'd rather not do it right away because it displaces the resident that's there, but we may not have a choice. So we want to get this going. I don't want to push extensions any longer than I have to. So if that's what it will do to substantiate or to create a substantial construction, that's what we're going to do. We're going to demo that house while these units are being applied for and constructed off-site, get that resident in-house, and then when those things are being constructed, if we've demolished that back house, we satisfied the deadline for, meeting the conditional use permit deadline. If that's the case, we should have what we need. So to answer your question, I think it's getting rid of that back house, which we're just going to have to do in the next 6 months.
And then you have to still apply for your building permits, is that right?
Actually, 2 different sets of permits. Yeah, one through the city and then one through the state, because it's a separate state permitting process to actually build these micro studios. And I don't know that much about it. Our architect, Stuart Emmons, who was here last time, knows much more about it. He's the one that's going to be handling all that permitting process. But it's going to be two sets of permitting, which again is different, because how do we run that exactly through the permitting process at Seaside? I think it's something they haven't seen before. So again, another reason I'm in front of you is because how do we know if that constitutes substantial construction?
Well, and how do you know you're going to be approved either? And then you just
Right.
demoed a house and displaced a resident.
Right. So, right.
Catch 22.
Yeah.
Displacing that resident displaces another resident, doesn't, or it occupies a space that somebody else could.
No, we're basically vacating the office that Brad, the executive director, was occupying, turning that into a temporary space, I think, for a resident, and just moving the office somewhere else. So we're just doing what we can to kind of shift things around while construction is taking place. So everything is temporary at this point, and it's going to be a trick timing wise to get all of this. So we are crossing our fingers that all the permitting happens and that it's all granted, but that may be a risk we have to take.
If you said it, I missed it. What's the timeline for the state approvals?
I don't know. That would be a question for the architect, but if we demo the back house, it should meet our purposes for substantial construction for the city's conditional use permit. So that gives us more leeway for however long that state permitting process may take. At the same time, we're going to be applying to the city and saying, there is a concurrent permitting process going on with the state. And I don't know how they'll handle that. I have no idea because it's different for them as well. This is a novel issue.
There's going to be a significant amount of site work that needs to be done outside of just demoing the house. So
Yeah.
As it comes to the city, whether or not the permits are in place to construct those modular units, there'll be a site development permit that'll be needed to put the utilities underground and move dirt back there. So there's other construction types that'll need to take place before those are actually built on site.
Including a retaining wall.
Right.
Because that's all got to get built out once that house is gone.
And those will all be through a civil permit through the city. That
Right.
will be reviewed by our building department and public works department.
And all of those qualify as,
Substantial construction. Yes.
All right. Yep.
Any further discussion? Questions? Okay. Can I get a motion from the commission?
I move that we approve 76924000066 PLNG.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. You have your extension.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Hang in there, Christian.